from Friday. Yeah, we're going over it. Oh, if you turned it in, grab it. Yeah. Okay. Okay, blue paper. I trust that you did the first part, the function notation part. So let's go to number 2. This is the survey at the local community college. And so part A was describing the domain and range of the data distribution. So even if you don't get it exactly word for word, if you're on the same pathway that I was on, then you're fine, okay? So the domain I put is a set of all possible values where students could answer for the number of semesters they completed. Okay, so that was the domain. And I put an example. So an example of that would be 0 semesters, 1 semester, 2, and so forth. If you didn't put this part, it's okay. I'm just putting it there so you know what we're talking about. It's the number of semesters. Okay? Because did they actually give us the data? No, they just said they did a survey. So we don't know what numbers they used, but they could have used something like that. Okay. The range. The range is the number of students for each possible answer of those semesters. So in other words, the frequency of each semester that was surveyed. So my example was that could have been 10 people. 10 people for 0 semesters, 11 people for 1. Those are just random numbers. It could have been anything, but that's what the range would look like for that scenario. And then part B was whether you agreed or disagreed with the student that said this cannot be represented by a function because many students in the class were in their first semester. So I already proved that wrong by showing you something here. What was it?
The pineapple.
The what? Because he's saying this can't be a function because there's people that haven't completed the semester. It's their first one. So do you agree with him or do you disagree? If there's someone that hasn't completed a semester, what number could they be represented by that I already put on the first one? 0. Okay. So we disagree because students in the first semester could be represented by 0. Okay. The survey could have said you completed 0, 0 to 1. You know how sometimes they give you ranges? They could have been part of that group, the 0 to 1 group. So we disagree with them. That's not it. It could be that function. And then sometimes when you're explaining your reasoning or your thinking, it's good to draw a figure. So for this one, I took it a step further and showed like a bar chart where 0 could be one of the inputs, right? When we plot points, is 0 part of the axis? Yes, so we can definitely plot 0, 10, or 0 something. So that's what I added. All right, next one. The next part of the survey was the favorite card color. So the first one we did together, we said it was correct because red is a color and 10 is a frequency. The next one, f of 20 equals blue. That is not correct because 20 is not a color and blue is not a frequency. So they didn't use function notation correctly. Okay? Did we get that right? Okay, turn your page because part C is on the next page. Where it says f of color equals white. Okay. Oh. What is that one? Correct or incorrect? Incorrect. Color is not a color. It's just the word color. And yeah, white is not a frequency. A color. Right? So those two are not correctly used with function notation. Number 2. Do you feel more comfortable now with function notation and how to read it and how to write it? Yes. We should, because that was an algebra 1 skill. Okay. All right, number 3. Now, I skipped the first table because I can trust that you knew how to count the frequencies and you wrote all the tables down, all these numbers. So let's go to part C, where it says, what is the value of f of 5 and what does it represent? So on your table, on your, when you plotted the points on the graph, where is the value for f when x is 5? Part C, what is the value of f of 5? When x is 5, what is your value? 4. 4. When x is 5, the value is 4. Value means the y. So when your x is 5, what is your y?
4.
4. What does that represent? 4 is
Students.
the frequency of students that travel in 5 minutes. Okay. Anytime it asks you for the value, you're evaluating that equation, that function at 5. So at 5, there was 4 people that answered they traveled 5 minutes. Okay. All right. Part D, you're going to use function notation to express the statement. 2 students reported it takes 20 minutes to travel. So f of 20 equals 2. 20 is the time, 2 is the 2 students. Okay? That was it for that one. That was the only answer. Okay? The next part, part E, is the most important part because this skill is what's going to allow you to complete the yellow packet. Okay? Where we group the data. And how did I find the numbers that go here? Do you remember? Didn't we get 5 here? How did I get 5? Yes, I counted the numbers from 0 to 4. So on Friday, that was on this table. From 0 to 4, we added 1 plus 1 plus 3, which gave us 5. So the frequency for that range from 0 to 4 is 5. And so this skill that you should have done from 1 to 35 is what you're going to do on the yellow paper, but with different data. Okay. So when you filled in that table for the group frequencies, you should have gotten 5, 13, 12, 6, 2, 0, 1, and 3. Okay. So this is the time traveled grouped into 5-minute intervals. And today on the yellow paper, you're going to group it by height of students. Okay, so this blue paper is going to help you do the yellow one. Okay. All right, and then F was, why is this table considered a function? And anything along the lines of input and output, for every output, there's an output for every input, or every input has an output. If you wrote anything like that, that is the definition of a function. So it can be represented, okay? And then you created the heights of the frequencies here for this graph display, and it should have looked something like this, where when you get from 25 to 30 minutes, there should be 0 height there because it was 0. And then 40 to 45 wasn't even on the table, right? So we don't have to put anything there. And so your heights are your frequencies, okay? Again, what does this data display look like that we've worked with that you're going to do today? A histogram, okay? All right, and then that leads us to the yellow paper, okay? This slide is linked on the calendar if you need to look at it, if I went too fast, okay? The yellow paper, the very first problem, number 1, has like 6 parts. So it's like 1A, B, and then it goes to the next page, and it's C, D, E, F, okay? That's all for number 1. So number 1, you're creating histograms, and which tool helps us do histograms super fast? Desmo, okay? We're talking about the heights among teenagers, and they gave us this list of 40 heights. So there's 40 numbers. Make sure you type slowly and accurately. And what is it asking you to do on part 1? Create 2 what? 2 histograms, but a very key word before that word, I'm going to say different, okay? 2 different histograms with the same data, okay? So how would I make different histograms? What would I have to change? Say it again. The bin width, okay? So, do y'all remember how to change the bin width on Desmos? click it and you change the number, it always does 1. You can change it to like 2, 4, 8, 10, 5, whatever bin width you want. There's no wrong bin width. The only thing that it wants you to do here is to do 2 different ones. So if you want to do the first bin width of 1, then by all means do a bin width of 1. But just know that your axes here are counted by 2. So be careful when you're sketching them. And if you want to do a bin width of 4 or 8 or 10, whatever you want, as long as they're different for each one. Now, the table here, range of heights and frequency. Like I said, your blue paper is going to help you fill that out because you have to make a table that looks like this, where your range shows your bins from 0 to a number, and then from that number to the next number, and what your frequency is, okay? Where should we align our bins on Desmos? To the left. Align your bins to the left so that you can plot them here correctly, okay? And then once you have those 2 bins, those 2 histograms plotted and on tables, then you'll answer the rest of the questions based on your graphs that you make. So today the goal is to at least get the first 2 histograms sketched, because tomorrow you'll have the rest of the class time to answer the rest of the questions on the packet. Okay, and then when is this due? Thursday. For full credit, it's due Thursday. Write that down on your paper and write your name on your packet. Because I will see you Wednesday, because y'all are going to go to 5th period after PSAT testing. But I'm not going to, like, assign anything. Does that make sense? Because I won't see my morning classes. So. Alright. Use the blue paper to guide you on the histogram. Yeah, when she gets back, you can go.